parties, Will Patterson's Manifesto launch evening. Okay, so just a quick rundown of the evening. Firstly, if anyone has a mobile phone, please turn it on. Usage is strictly encouraged. Go on to Twitter and Facebook, and if you like anything we say, pop it in there with the hashtag #YesIWill. And if you like anything we say from these pages, please hit the like and the retweet button as if they owe you money. I really want to share this to as many people as we can. Okay, so then, tonight, first Will's going to come up. He's going to give a small presentation about his manifesto, releasing it to you personally and to the people at home. And then there's going to be a question and answer session from the audience. And from people at home, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments box on Facebook or tweet them to us at @WillForGreenMayor. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome you all, Will Paterson.
You haven't even heard what I'm going to say yet. But no, thank you, firstly, everyone for coming on a Monday evening, and thank you for the great welcome. And also thank you for actually filling this room. Isn't that great, everyone? So thank you very much. Before I actually start, there's one thing I should say, and that is about the person who, by rights, ought to be standing here giving this presentation tonight, Dacre and Zerebe. Dacre was an amazing human being, a fantastic servant of his community, a fantastic voice for all the causes he represented. And those causes, the cause of climate, the cause of equality, the cause of democracy, they were his beliefs, but they're our beliefs. And it is a real honour to be standing here, continuing the work that he started. And I remember that every day whenever I'm out on the campaign trail in terms of whatever I do for this election. This is work that he began, and it is a true privilege to have the honour and the job of continuing it. So I want to talk a little first, before we actually get to the nitty-gritty, about where we stand on devolution, because I think it's no secret that we were sceptical, not of the idea of devolution. We certainly don't think that the Tory government in Westminster is delivering for Greater Manchester. Of course it isn't, and it never will. But the way that this has been done, the way that we've had devolution thrust upon us in a constitutional carve-up by the councils, is simply not acceptable. This should have had a referendum. It should have been open to consultation. And more than that, this shouldn't just be about a mayoral election. There should be an assembly alongside it, instead of the closed-door combined authority that we've got. So we're here, almost as reluctant participants, but we're here because we know that if we don't engage, we'll never make this better, and we'll never make it work for the people of Greater Manchester. So for that reason, it's important that our voice is heard more than ever, to actually open this up and make sure that, yeah, we're devolving power to the city, but we're also devolving power to the citizens as well. So let me talk about the event that we've got tonight. What you'll see are a series of videos from people across Greater Manchester raising the issues that matter to them, the issues that actually get them fired up and angry. And the question will be, will I help? And there's the answer. Yes, I will. Now, obviously, it's kind of fun when your name's an auxiliary verb. You get to do puns like this all the time. So, again, we have gone for the sort of cheese angle on this one. But this is the whole point, because it is about clear, definable, real action. I will is one of the most affirmative statements there is. And it's at the heart of what we're doing, because it's not about just sort of listing off principles, picking fights and doing nothing for the people of Greater Manchester. It's about real delivery, real action. That's at the heart of what I'm planning for Greater Manchester. That's at the heart of what I'm proposing. So let's start with the first video.
I'm angry about the fact that we've got a housing crisis in this country, and that is being exacerbated by councils continually evicting people for things like rent arrears that are caused by benefit sanctions, and it's just a cyclical pattern that is happening over and over again. It's 18 months now since I lost my own flat, which is local authority, and in that time there's been 3 tenants going in and out and in and out, moved on, and it just annoys me. And it annoys me as well that this is related to benefit sanctions, because that's why I lost my own flat. Recently, I've been repaid those sanctions, and they've told me that I was wrongly sanctioned, and it's nice to have that money now, but it doesn't get my flat back, it doesn't get all my possessions back, it doesn't actually stop other people getting homeless. And I see it every day. Every day I see more and more people begging, and there's empty flats everywhere.
So the question is, will I do something about it? And the answer is, yes, I will. Because the simple truth is that the priorities of our councils in Greater Manchester have been dead wrong for far too long. And I want to change this idea of councils and the combined authority cheerleading for luxury flats in the city centre while doing nothing at all for those sleeping on the streets beneath them. And if you saw the Manchester Evening News today, you'll have seen the impact that's having on people, vulnerable people turning to drugs like spice and finding themselves drawn into an never-ending pit of despair because of it.
Today we're in a part of Bury that's really poignant for me, because one of the people I worked with at the homeless shelter lived in this very street and was suffering from depression and fighting addiction, and because of the huge amount of pressure on him, he actually killed himself a couple of months ago. So this is very, very close to home for me. And I would like to see a Britain with a universal basic income.
So we need to start tackling this, and we need to actually look firstly at the plans that we have to meet the demand for housing that's actually there. Not executive homes on the Greenbelt, but the social and affordable housing that we actually need. Housing in urban areas that's close to the jobs and services that people need to access. And of course, given the impact on benefits as well, given the impact of the bedroom tax, we need to make sure that there are smaller properties so people don't get caught into this trap of being stuck on benefits with even a social home that they can't afford. So it's about making sure that we're building the right homes in the right places for the people who need them, not the people who we're trying to market Greater Manchester to. It's about making sure that we're targeting vulnerable groups. It's about making sure that we're working with the Foyer Network to support young people into independent living. It's about working with the LGBT community when you realise that almost a quarter of young homeless people identify as LGBT. That's a disproportionate figure, and by working with the voluntary organisations, we can help to tackle that. It's about working with domestic violence groups as well to make sure that women have a safe place to go. They don't have to choose between staying in an abusive relationship or going on the streets. It's about making sure that we're tackling those groups, tackling the needs we have, and actually challenging the stigma of rental as well. This idea that came around since Right to Buy, that if you don't own your own home, you're less of a person, you're less of a success. We want to challenge that mindset. We want rental, whether it's through social means or through private renting, like myself, is actually something to be proud of. And that's why I'm pushing for a renters' union as well to defend tenants' rights. So we have a number of steps there that we to take real action to improve the housing situation in Greater Manchester. Can we sort housing? Yes, I will.
I'm so concerned about some sort of mistaken racism. It's like people don't like each other anymore. I like everybody on my bus, but but a lot of people now are racist against people who look different. Well, let me tell you who they are. A lot of them are students. In my community, there's 2 universities, and they've come to study. They belong here. And then you have their family members. Well, they belong here, and we really shouldn't be against anybody coming to join their family. And then there's the legitimate workers from Europe, and they're filling the roles of care worker and hospital worker and bus driver and really important roles like that. So I absolutely oppose racism.
So will I tackle racism? Again, yes I will. Because one of the things that we've seen since the Brexit vote is that that vote was not so much about the borders around the country, but the borders within the country, the borders between communities. And it's time that we tackle this, it's time that we challenge that narrative. And that's why we need to build on the work that's being done to make sure that we continue with a zero tolerance for hate crime. But the fact is the police aren't helping when they defend the far right's right to march. Because that's the platform for hate crime, that's the platform for division. So quite simply, I'll protect vulnerable minorities and not the far right.
I have 2 small children and I'm literally worried about the air they are breathing. And we heard news about the pollution and how the companies are lying to us. So we don't even know how bad the pollution is. In Oldham, where I live, there's lots of people in bad lung and chest problem. The Green Party will hold the polluters account. I know they will protect our interest.
So will we do something about air quality? Again, yes I will. At this point we're sort of going to kind of like TARDIS style of voice as well here, but bear with it. The fact is that we do need to tackle this because it's turning into a public health nightmare as well as a congestion nightmare. These things are all linked. And we need to do more to improve the public transport offering to get people out of their cars. It's that simple. We need to make public transport the method of choice for journeys in Greater Manchester. We need to do more to push active travel, walking and cycling. And I want to see a walking and cycling superhighway network across Greater Manchester. I want to appoint a walking and cycling champion who can push for behaviour change across the region. And I want to work with groups like Living Streets who are doing so much to promote active travel, particularly among schools. When you realise that a quarter of all traffic during the morning rush hour is cars on the school run, you realise just how important it is, not just for our young people's health, but for congestion and for the wider economy as well, that we actually get kids walking again, get kids cycling again. And that's why what I want to do is exceed some of the targets that are out there already for active travel to school and turn the school run into the school walk to benefit our health, to benefit our air, and to benefit young people's independence as well.
We've got hospital closures, wards closing, beds going. What's happening in the NHS is shocking and awful. It's our national treasure. People deserve a decent health service, free at the point of care. We don't want it privatised. We don't want it like America. We want everybody to be able to share in it. People need to know that the government is underfunding it and we're losing it, and we've got to fight that.
So will I defend the NHS? Yes, I will. Because the NHS, as Sandy said there, goes to the heart of our identity as a people now. It's so vital, and I owe my life to the NHS. I was born prematurely, I was quite ill as a baby, and without the care that the NHS offered, I don't know if my parents would have been able to afford the treatments I needed. I'm literally standing here today because of the NHS. So if you need someone to be a passionate defender of it, a passionate defender of keeping this important public service in public hands, look no further. And that's why I'll resist any attempts to franchise the NHS off to the public sector here in Greater Manchester. It's why as well I'll push for the care service to be protected. It's why I'll push for the sweetheart deal that's been given to Surrey County Council to be delivered to Greater Manchester as well. Can we stand up for our services when they need us right now? Yes, we can. and yes, I will.
What we need is a more sustainable transport system in Greater Manchester, and I think the Green Party are the only people who are likely to deliver on that. What we need, as well as improved public transport links of course, is also support for people who want to make the switch to electric cars. Things like that. Charging points with free parking for those people who are trying to make a difference.
So will we improve the public transport offering in Greater Manchester? Yes, I will. And again, as Neil said there, electric cars are part of the offering there, making sure that we have more widely available charging points. But the fact is that there are particular journeys in Greater Manchester that it doesn't matter how you do them, whether it's by road or by rail, they are incredibly stressful. And there's no difference in the end between driving and taking the train, taking the bus. That difference needs to be there. People do not want to be signing up to the morning rush hour. They don't want to be sitting in those queues. So let's give them. So let's give them a public transport system that's worth using. Let's stop this cheerleading for HS2, which is just going to get senior managers to London for their meetings a few minutes quicker, and actually start valuing the journeys that we make every day. I'll just shout. Yeah. Tell you, I'm from Wigan. You know, I've got a loud voice. You know, you can say they once said about me grandmother that you could hear a whisper from 3 fields away. So you know, if this cuts out again, we'll just sort of go unplugged. But the fact is that the rail service, for the country that invented the rail service, and for the region that actually pioneered some of the first rail services, the actual offering we have is incredibly poor. And while the national politicians are cheerleading HS2, they're ignoring those daily journeys. They're ignoring the fact that many people commuting right now are stuck on diesel trains. We should be rolling out a faster and broader electrification programme. We should be extending the Metrolink as well. Instead of being a hub just to get people in and out of the city centre, it should be genuinely connecting communities across the whole city region. It should be a service that delivers for all 10 boroughs. It should be a service as well that doesn't just deliver arms out of the city, but connects them up through an outer circle. And of course, we do have powers coming to re-regulate the buses. We should use them properly to make sure that the buses are not run for profit, they're run for passengers. Making sure that we have buses that are accessible and greener as well. And of course, accessibility has got to be at the heart of this, because public transport has to be for everyone. The buses have to have low floors, they have to have audio-visual announcements, and certainly on the trams as well, we need to end the scandal of lifts at Metrolink stations being turned off early. Step-free access must be available for every passenger as long as the trams are running. Can we sort transport? Yes, I will.
The Green Belt was created to prevent urban sprawl and to protect the countryside. The proposal now is to build on Green Belt sites, and there's absolutely no reason to do this and no need for it. There are plenty of brownfield sites around Greater Manchester to build the additional housing that we need. The Green Belt is really important. It's important for people's well-being, it's important for agriculture, and it's important for wildlife. We cannot let our green belt be built on, and in Bury we are not going to let that happen.
So, will I defend our green belt? Will I defend our green spaces? Yes, I will. Because the spatial framework that's threatening our green belt is one of the most ludicrous documents the combined authorities come up with. And let me tell you, they've come up with some corkers. It's based on assumptions about population and economic growth that were drawn up before the Brexit referendum. So already the assumptions that have gone into the plan have been fundamentally undermined. There's this assumption as well that building on high value land on the green belt will tackle the social and affordable demand that we have. They talk about the number of houses that are demanded, but they don't realise that building high-value houses won't actually meet that demand. It'll just create another generation of housing haves and have-nots, and we deserve better than that. On jobs, we're told as well that this relentless centralisation of the economy, by drawing all the office work into the city centre and then building warehouses on the green belt around the outskirts, will benefit Greater Manchester. But the whole point is that this is a 20-year plan, and those jobs are supposed to come online towards the end of it, even beyond it. So we're talking jobs 20, perhaps even 40 years in the future. And when they've been drawing this up, they've not even bothered to pay attention to the trends that are taking place right now in the sectors they're trying to attract. It's not even occurred to them that in sectors like logistics, the jobs that they intend to create will, by the time they're available, most likely be done by robots in any case through automation, particularly with the funds that the government are offering for that. So again, it sounds like the councillors have actually thought about the jobs that were available, quite frankly, when they were my age, and they're not thinking about the jobs that will be available when I'm their age. So again, the assumptions that underpin this idea of building on the green belt are completely hollow. They're hollow in terms of population and economic growth. They're hollow in terms of housing demand. They're hollow in terms of employment prospects. Now, if all of the ideas that underpin the framework are flawed, the last thing you do is carry on. And there's one last idea, because the fact is that all of the candidates are now accepting that the framework is flawed, apart from one, the guy who helped to write it. And he's valiantly defending it to the end. But he's only got one last argument left, one last card to play, and that is, but we need a plan. Because if we don't have a plan, then development will just go on unchecked. At least this way, if we give up some of the green belt, the rest of it will be protected. Well, sorry, Shaw, but I'm about to throw away your last card. Because even that one's flawed, because what's actually happening is, when you concede the point of building on some of the green belt, you concede the point of building on the green belt full stop. And we've seen already the consequences of this, because this idea that having the plan stops development from getting out of control was blown out of the water by the existing local plans that councils have drawn up. And just down the road from me in Standish, we see the effects of that. The first draft of the local plan for Wigan contained no new houses for Standish, and that was vetoed by central government. And so they came back with a revised plan that proposed 1,000 new houses. And sure enough, that offer was taken up by the developers. But then, can you guess what happened? Did they stop there? Who thinks they stopped there? I'm seeing no hands go up, because you'd all be right. They didn't stop there. More houses came, more applications came in for another 400 extra houses. And the council, to its credit, rejected that application. So did the developers leave it and give up? Who thinks they did? No one. That's right, they appealed. And guess what happened? They won the appeal. So, the council were vetoed and those houses got built. Did they stop there? No, they didn't. Another 200 houses. And the council this time didn't even bother rejecting it, they just waved it through. So Standish went from no houses to 1,000 houses to more than 1,600 houses. And that's through having a plan that was supposed to limit development. So once again, that's the last assumption of the spatial framework, and facts, simple facts, actual recent history has ripped it apart. So what we need to do, quite simply, is rip this spatial framework up and start again with a real plan that protects our green spaces, that protects our green belts, meets the demand for housing that I talked about before, and plans for the jobs that are actually going to be around in 20 years, not the ones that councils think were a good job back in 1993 or whenever. And that's the fact here, because I mentioned as well green spaces rather than green belt. We see too often urban green spaces, reclaimed industrial land that nature has once again reclaimed. they are still vulnerable. And beautiful sites such as Knutsford Vale, and I've seen the campaigners there trying to defend a green space that they've worked so hard to develop. Pomona Island as well, they are still under the threat of developers. So here's a commitment I'm going to make. Not only will I reject any plan that involves building on existing greenbelt or the loss of any current sites, but I will push for these urban green spaces to be included in the greenbelt going forward.
I'm an immigrant, and immigrants get a really bad rap in the moment. I want the mayoral candidate and then the elected mayor to stand up for immigrants like me, who contribute to Manchester society and to Greater Manchester society. I'm taking care of an English stepdaughter, I'm volunteering in many good causes, I'm paying my taxes, and I don't understand why we get a bad rap. And Manchester itself voted against Brexit, maybe not all the Greater Manchester boroughs, but I would want someone to stand up for people like me who contribute to this town and to this area.
So will I defend the rights of people who live in Greater Manchester, wherever they are from? Yes, I will. Because an old friend of mine used to have this wonderful saying that I carry with me today. It doesn't matter where you're from. What matters is where we are going together. And that's the way I see the world, and that's how I will carry myself if I'm elected mayor. That's the vision I will hold for the whole region. And Astrid, who's with us tonight in fact, volunteers at the Greater Manchester Law Centre, offering people access to justice that they would otherwise be denied. In one day, she contributes more to the welfare of Greater Manchester's communities than the entire far right, the entire anti-immigrant movement contributes in a lifetime. And so it's vital that the mayor speak up for communities across Greater Manchester that are feeling the strain and are feeling under the spotlight because of Brexit. And it's absolutely vital that the first thing the mayor does is stand up for the rights of EU citizens who came here on a promise that they would be treated with the same rights and responsibilities as someone who was born here. What the Brexit vote should have been about at some point was a debate as to who we are as a people. And when you have people who've come here on that promise that we would care for them as we would our own, do we want to be the sort of people who break a promise like that for political expediency? No, we don't. And I certainly won't allow that to be the case in Greater Manchester. Of course, it's not just about EU immigrants, it's about immigrants wherever they come from, making sure that they feel welcome, making sure that if they've made Greater Manchester their home, if they've made their life in Greater Manchester, they are made to feel welcome in Greater Manchester. It's about our diverse communities, regardless of faith, regardless of gender, regardless of sexual orientation, all feeling that they have a part to play, because at the heart of our vision for society is sustainability, and you cannot have a sustainable society unless every individual in it can feel free to play the part they would wish and make the contribution that they are able to. And that's why I will stand up for the rights of immigrants. That's why I will stand up for the rights of minorities at every opportunity. Can we defend the rights of people who've made Greater Manchester their home? Yes, I will. So you've seen the videos, you've seen the concerns that people from across Greater Manchester have, you've seen the issues that we need to tackle. You've seen how vital it is that we deliver on housing, real action on housing, real opportunities, not the executive high-rise flats that are just there to jack up the council tax base. You've seen the need for a health service that remains in public hands. You've seen the need to protect our green spaces from development, from, again, not from development, but from the actual wealthy developers who are just in it for a quick buck. You've seen the need to work on a transport system that works for the people, not for a sort of glitzy vanity project to London. And you've seen the need to take real action on air quality and to defend our communities. whoever they are, from the menace of the far right and the menace of extremism. And you need a mayor who's got the ability to tackle those. And that experience doesn't come from time at Westminster. It doesn't come from time in our town halls. It comes from real life experience. It comes from the experience of living in Greater Manchester, looking for somewhere to live in Greater Manchester, working and looking for work in Greater Manchester, dealing with the benefit system in Greater Manchester, travelling on the Greater Manchester transport network every day. That's the experience I have, experience at the sharp end of the decisions that our politicians take, experience of the real life consequences of those decisions. And it's that understanding that will drive everything I do. It's that understanding that knows that we need real action. And it's that understanding that knows that we need a vision that says, not just that we can do something, but that we will do something. Can we take real action? Yes, we can. And yes, I will.